This is Buzz Wood. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Douglas Stewart, and we thank you for taking the time to join us on this webinar. We call it the Headlight Series, trying to give you guys a view or illuminate, as we say, what's ahead in education, and today's topic is going to be about video, but not just video of any sort, but video in education, how it's being used, who's buying it, and the products that are the underpinnings of what makes it all happen. Joining me today is Christine Manji, who is from California with Maitre D High School. Did I get that right, Christine?
Otterday. It's Otterday.
All right. Well, it's good to know that I've been corrected already. But Christine is a distinguished educator that's going to give us some insight into video and how she's using it as an educator, which will be extremely valuable in this discussion. And we're glad to have her with us today. Also joining me is Rich Pinkel, who is on our sales account team. Rich is very knowledgeable about many things in video, and he's going to be riding shotgun with us today and take on some parts of the presentation as we move forward. Hi, everyone. So without further ado, we'll get to the good stuff. I just want to remind everyone that we have 4 key words, and if you're watching us on your screen, they're going to be highlighted in red. Make note of them. These keywords will then allow you to enter for a iographer case for iPad or video. So be sure to keep in mind as you're looking. For those that are listening, we will repeat these words painfully, right, Rich? Definitely. Yes, just to make sure that you know the keywords so that you can compete. And then you can also, on the replay of this event, see it once more and compete or try to win a wonderful iographer case for iPad for video. Okay. So we're going to try to sprint and do this thing in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe at the most. We're going to cover the basics of why, where, what, and how are usually the best things to anchor our discussion. And so without further ado, we'll get to that. One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting as you look at video, and we all see video in Twitter now, we see it in YouTube, and we also see it also in Facebook. And Mark Zuckerberg made a pretty bold statement just about a month or so ago where he said he saw video as a megatrend on the same order as mobile. So, and you know what mobile's been doing and what it has done. So that's a pretty big statement, and I think it really kind of galvanizes the idea that video is something that's going to be a main medium that's going to be used for instruction and learning and in the years to come, as well as even now.
And then now is the time to capitalize on it, too, because if you think of mobile 15 years ago, it was very in the launch phase, and now it's kind of plateaued. We're in that same launch phase for video now.
Great point. So video, does a number of things, but we see video in education as a very, very powerful and motivating, engaging, and instructional tool. And today, when Christine has her time with us and talks, you'll find that it's ever so true in her real-world experience with students. On the screen now, for those that can see, is a poll, and it was a poll of 1,000 teachers that provided some of these data points, and I'm just going to single out one that I thought was rather important, and it was that 85% of these teachers believed that it increased student achievement. And most educators are really interested in student outcomes. Whenever they have any instructional direction, they always reconcile it against what are the outcomes, what are students really achieving, and using video, they see it as one of the main things that can actually increase that due to the visual nature of that medium. So we want to boil it down to kind of 3 core reasons why video is important, and I think this really speaks to it. It engages students visually. We like to think of that being video being the native language of today's learner, so it's their first language. If you thought any of us grew up on TV or video, the Generation Z and beyond are really wired that way. Also, it's a dynamic instructional tool. We'll talk more about how that really amplifies the instructional model when there's one teacher on 24 kids, how video can be a pre- and post instructional tool to help students learn. And here's the best part: it runs on everything. It's agnostic. It can be on any type of platform, any type of device, mobile device. Video lives everywhere, which is really great. So if you're creating video, you're in a very safe place for playback. So the place that everyone kind of wonders is, well, where does video fit in education? And we noted some in this presentation, but there's certainly more places that it's making its way into. The CTE community for career tech education, instructors of different skill sets use it to show students before they actually physically get into either woodworking or fabric, if they're in that area, or pipe fitting, or any of the types of CTE. Avionics is another one, and they use video as a learning tool to really show kids before they actually get into using the materials that they're working with, which is really time-saving and material-saving at its best. And you'll find that CTE is really embracing video in a big way. PE, physical education, I think, Rich, you and I talked about this yesterday quite a bit, as sports is such a big piece of college and pro, of course. The kids, when they're in their K-12 experience, really refine their skills and techniques using video to observe themselves, to make better, all the techniques that they're trying to learn. And again, it's a terrific place in that segment. Makerspace. The funny thing about Makerspace is we've talked to more and more instructors about it, is as kids build their learning, it's very rarely recorded, which is really kind of strange that it isn't captured, because there is such a great process that goes into the maker, approach to learning. And having students record it also refines their skills, improves on design, and helps with collaboration and sharing and those types of things. So Makerspace is kind of an untapped market for video. So if you're selling any kind of maker products, think about selling video along with it, because it's really has a great kinship to that experience. CCTV, the closed circuit television, there's a studio about in every media center that I've ever walked into, where they do morning announcements and student productions that broadcast across the school and sometimes even beyond there with some of the new technologies. And in some of the different tools that you're going to learn about today, Iographer being one of them, really does an amazing job of taking a simple thing like an iPad and making it an HD cinematic camera, which really reduces the cost and creates this great broadcast quality video that these CCTV studios actually produce on a daily basis. So that's a terrific application. So, if you're going into library media centers around Makerspace or Learning Commons, also ask about their CCTV broadcast studios, and that's another great place where we see it plugging in. Last but certainly not least, Flipped Classroom. Started out many years ago just using PowerPoint slides, and now has evolved into using video. And in the Flip model, it's an essential component that's not getting missed. And again, through this presentation that you're sitting in on today, you'll learn more about some specific products that actually plug directly into doing flipped classroom practices using video. Did I get that right, Rich?
Definitely, yep. Yeah, right at the end, we'll be covering a number of different product lines that fit right into all these applications.
By the way, we're going to have a Q&A session at the very end, but not to log jam us or run out of time. If you are at computer and you have a question as we're moving through this material rather quickly, just go ahead and enter into the chat box your question, and Rich is here at the console, and he'll interpret, and we'll get you an answer. Without further ado, Christine Mangi is a assistant director of film and media arts at her school in Santa Ana, California. It's one of the first schools in the U.S. with a one-to-one adoption of iPads. She teaches film and television production, and it doesn't get a whole lot better than that when you're talking about video. She's a Google Education Certified Trainer, a Google Level 1 and 2 educator, and holds a BA in Humanities and a Master's in Educational Leadership. And boy, are we lucky to have her on the line with us today. So, Christine, I've got a few questions to ask you, but first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, I've got a few questions, and then we have an open comment at the end. So anything you think that resonated with you in the previous slides that we've talked about, feel free to comment. I thought I'd start off and ask, what got you started in video with your students? I mean, it seems like kind of a great place to start.
Well, my bachelor's degree is actually in film and media production, and I worked in video production before I even got my teaching credential, with infomercials, stuff like that, mainly in post-production. So I always had that knowledge and ability to create videos for my students. And then when my school went one-to-one with iPads, it was really exciting for me now because my students could create as well. It wasn't just me creating.
And I think you make a great point because we want the power of this to really be in the students' hands, right?
Yes, definitely. I mean, before, with me creating everything now, it's just, I give my instructions to my students and I always say, go forth and create. And then they go out and they create some amazing stuff.
Yeah. So much of the time with these types of products, because they're exciting and they have a lot of sizzle when you see them, have you kind of slowed the motion of that down a little bit to say to the students, listen, I want you to storyboard and premeditate the production so that they don't just get hung up on the equipment and shooting something and then the quality isn't what they really even wanted, let alone people that watch it, so that there's a little more forethought to it. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, my students, of course, the first thing they want to do, they come into the studio, they see all the equipment, and they just want to go start shooting. And so I kind of have to rein them in and say, well, you have to do a storyboard, you have to have a script, you have to have, all these other elements before you even go out there. And they learn really quickly that if they go out and they're unprepared and they come back, that they didn't get what they wanted. So, but you kind of have to give them that little space in the beginning to go out and, I guess, not be afraid for them to fail so that they can come back and say, oh yeah, you were right, you need to do this. So we spent a lot of time on digital storytelling and telling stories and that kind of thing before I really tried to give them the big equipment to go out. And the iPad is great because they can start off small and then move into, using more expensive equipment.
Were you surprised at all of the video quality that you got out of the iPad? Because I know a lot of people have the inclination to buy expensive DSLRs or other kinds of really expensive equipment, and most schools have iPads laying around. I mean, was that kind of surprising that you were getting the kind of quality out of those products?
Oh, absolutely. I remember I paid close to $10,000 for my first Final Cut editing system, and that was, at that time considered really cheap. But now my students can shoot 1080, even 4K on their iPads, and that is just so unreal to me and so exciting. And then you add tools like iOgrapher and Switcher Studio, and you can create broadcast quality video right in the classroom for, less than $1,000. So I was surprised, just because it was new to me, just as new to me as it was for the students. So yeah, it's very exciting. And
from a point of view, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and we do have, the more expensive equipment in our studio. But I tell my students, you're still shooting at high quality, so you can do this almost the same thing that we can do with a more expensive camera. And a lot of my students are creating stuff, and we're putting it on our show, and it looks, better than some of the other stuff that the kids are shooting with the more expensive equipment.
Well, many of the folks that have joined us on the call, they sell to schools and districts around the country. And I think what's interesting here, and I'd like to hear what you think of this, is that when they're selling it, do you think that it's important that they talk about the student engagement part of it, or is there something more meaningful about talking about how it leverages instruction as an instructional tool, or should they kind of butter their bread on both sides and cover both topics when they're talking about these solutions to schools and districts?
I think you should talk about both sides because I use I use it for myself as a creation tool, but it's also powerful for the students to use as a creation tool. It Students are more engaged when they see a video that you've created, but it's also more interesting for them to create a video on something than it is to. I always use the mission projects as a kind of a example. We had the students going in, they buy the kit, they put it together, but they didn't really know. They never really were learning about their mission. Suddenly we have kids building their missions in Minecraft and creating videos, and that learning is so much more powerful. So I think you have to look at it from both ends.
What would be a good starting point, like if a teacher saw this for the first time and said, wow, I guess I can actually get into video myself. What's a good insertion point for them to kind of begin? Because it can be a bit intimidating because they may think, well, I'm not a video file. I don't know how to shoot video, and it's, that kind of thing. So where would be a good initial starting point for some educators to start filming themselves as an instructional method?
Well, it's interesting because if depending on what device you have, iMovie has a lot of great templates, and so does Adobe Spark. So you don't even have to. You just add and drop the pictures in, and I always think those are great starting points for teachers to use. WeVideo has also some templates, and just using those templates that already they tell you exactly what shot to put in, they give you the music, they give you the background, they give you everything. So that gives you that starting point, and then you can, from there, get more creative and start doing your own thing. So I always say start with the templates and the simple stuff and then pretty soon you'll find yourself using all kinds of things.
Well, we're going to cover a lot of that spectrum from the easy stuff, which I agree with you. I think it's a great place when somebody has that initial success. It makes them want to do more, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, any final thoughts and takeaways you think that this audience would like to hear from you about? They're certainly going to be talking to plenty of educators about the virtue of video. What do you think?
Well, I think that the tools are there and available for every student and every teacher. It's just a matter of the teachers getting past that fear of doing something different. I think that's the biggest, when I'm presenting and teaching teachers, that's the biggest thing that I come across with the teachers is this fear of doing something different, and also the fear of turning things over to your students to let them create. And realizing that you don't have to know everything for your students to be able to do this. Teachers think that if they are not the experts, then they get really nervous. But the students will teach you, and you have to be willing to learn from your students. You have to be willing to kind of let them go and just get creative. And once you do that and you get past that fear, then you realize just how powerful it is, and it becomes more about student learning than just you being, the sage on the stage.
Great advice, and thank you again for so much of the input, and it's valuable, I'm sure, to our audience that's listening. Stay on the line with us so that if we get some Q&A here at the end, you can contribute, okay?
Oh, no problem.
Very good. So, now that we've gotten some of the education insight from Christine, let's kind of shift gears here. And what are the underpinnings of products and solutions that make this all happen? And for those, again, that are viewing, and for those that aren't, I'll bore you with reading this a little bit, but we do have about 5 manufacturers that we're going to spotlight in the next few minutes in rapid succession, but we'll touch on what each one does. Iographer, as we mentioned earlier, makes these cases that embellish optically and from an audio point of view the iPad for capture. WeVideo has a great agnostic editor that's a web editing software application that runs on everything, so it's agnostic in its approach. Very powerful, great for beginners and intermediates. Adobe, I think we've heard of them a time or two, right?
Once or twice,
yeah. I figured as much. Adobe's got a terrific product for those people that are going to really live and breathe video from a post-production point of view, and they make, of course, Premiere and After Effects, which are used widely. A lot of commercials and things you see on TV are all cut with that product. So we have that one as well. You want to talk about TechSmith?
Yeah. So we'll go a little more in depth shortly, but TechSmith is great because it's got a great entry-level video editor as well as a fantastic screen capture tool that I've talked to a lot of resellers who have gotten feedback from teachers that have found that incredibly useful. And then Swivel we'll talk a little more about too shortly, but it's basically a robotic personal cameraman.
Yeah. And they marry nicely together, and we'll talk about that, right? Okay. So let's take a quick dive into each one of these. Iographer, well, here at Douglas Stewart, we have about, 3 or 4 bundles, I think,
Something like
that meet many needs. We have a basic bundle set up, which includes lens, a microphone, tripod. We have a set that does broadcast journalism, which has different microphone setups, a little more robust. Then we have a really kind of cool product that utilizes either a GoPro camera. Here we sell one called Activon that allows you to shoot 180 POV or point of view captures, and with a microphone that embellishes the audio. And the case is really something. It has a couple of pistol type grips on either side. All of these tripod mount, and we have all these products available now. And they just are amazing for the kind of money you put into it, that you get this kind of quality and performance. So, in fact, I got one story to quickly tell. As I was at a school district showing off a case, and what happened was the IT director called me and pulled me aside when I was presenting, or shortly after I presented, and he said, you know that we're moving to a different platform, and that the iPads were going to be used in a different manner, and we had some ideas of using them with lower grades and some other applications, but the fact that you showed us this product has just completely transformed our thinking on this, and we're going to take quite a few of these and give them to teachers and students and have them create all best practices for teachers and student collaborative projects, and it was really something, and they converted many of the iPads into these video capture devices, and so sometimes when you're selling these products, you sometimes don't know the magnitude of how it can actually turn out. And that one was really one that surprised me when he actually called me over. I thought I had done something wrong, but instead it was a pretty magic moment. So keep that in mind, that as many people look for using iPads or repurposing iPads, this really, with IR, really it completely transforms it.
It was definitely a game changer for my classroom, because we didn't have to have expensive equipment. You could just be in the classroom. You could have a green screen, and the kids suddenly could create these amazing videos.
Wow. The biggest challenge you got is making sure they charge them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it.
Cool. The next product we're going to talk about in the lineup is actually Swivel. So as I stated right at the beginning, it's actually, think of it as a personal cameraman. Essentially what the presenter does is they'll wear what's called a marker around their neck. It's about the size of a small computer mouse. And what that does is it performs 2 functions. First, it carries the audio, transmits it over to the camera, and it also acts as a point for the camera to track. So all you need to operate this, aside from the swivel unit, is an iPad or a tablet or even a smartphone. And what that will do is, as the speaker is walking around, it'll record the audio as well as tracking them. Can rotate fully. They also have the capability of adding in additional points so that up to 5 people can be recorded, or 5 tables even. We've seen a lot of use in this for flipped classrooms. I know when I was growing up, it was always you'd be in class, getting the lecture, and then having to do homework at home, which I did most of the time. And the thing about this that we've seen a lot of success with is teachers can film high-quality video of themselves presenting for the students to actually watch while they're at home. Then when they're in the classroom, they can actually go over questions they had, concerns. So very useful for that.
And it's ISO or Android. It doesn't matter either one, right?
Correct. You can use either operating system. The main difference is that it comes with the hookup for iOS. If you want to utilize Android platform, you just need an extra cable.
Well, I guess it eliminates somebody who's going to shoot it for them because you can't always find that second person, and you don't have camera jitter. It's as steady as a rock, and yep, there you go.
Exactly, and they actually just added the capability to instantly broadcast as well. So, for example, if a bunch of students are sick for whatever reason, the teacher can still broadcast the lesson in real time to them.
Right. Next, we have WeVideo, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a terrific web product. I can't sell this short a bit. I mean, it does green screening, voice annotation, project collaboration, which is really cool. So if I say were to start a video, then Rich could then edit it. Then Christine, being on the West Coast, she could do it whenever it was convenient for her, and then you have more of a shared platform anytime, anywhere. Once it's completed, then it can be, again, broadcasted out and shared on any appliance, being a web delivered video. And also they provide cloud storage, so if you're worried about all the video, which can always take gobs of storage, they've got a solution for that as part of their service. So that's, again, WeVideo for advanced use sometimes, but mostly for beginner and intermediate. Speaking of advanced.
Definitely. So Adobe, I'm guessing most of you have heard of. I'm hoping most of you have heard of. There are a ton of different products that Adobe offers. The specific one that relates to video is actually Adobe's Premiere Advanced Video Editor. And the way this compares to WeVideo or Camtasia, which I'll be talking about in a sec, is that this is a much more advanced platform. Camtasia, anyone can learn to use. Same with WeVideo. It's very simple. Adobe, it's a little bit of a steeper learning curve, but because it has so many different features and everything, it's actually used by professionals for a lot of high-end movies. I was actually watching an interview with the director of Deadpool, and he used this for a lot of the editing for the simple reason of he didn't have to use multiple platforms to accomplish everything he wanted to. He could do it all on the Adobe Premiere platform. So it's designed for professionals, all-inclusive, and really it's one of the biggest go-to tools for high-end video editing.
Yeah, and we mentioned CTE programs. One of them is video production and film, and in many cases, these products are a part of those academies that are out there in secondary education. So as you look to kind of marry like the capabilities of Iographer with a pro video editor like Premiere and After Effects, as Rich is mentioning, this is really for the upper end. If kids in the upper end of secondary, like grades 10 through 12, really get these kinds of video chops, it really serves them well in a post-secondary endeavor if they were to do so. So very valuable and being used by corporations quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. The other great thing, too, is if they have the exposure in those finishing grades and decide that they want to move into that type of career path, they already have experience with the most universally used platform for that.
Yeah. So that's Adobe. Let's see, last but certainly not least, TechSmith.
Yes. So most people aren't as familiar with the name TechSmith, but they do know two of the products that they are well known for, Camtasia and Snagit. So Camtasia is a great video editor. It's designed for anyone from novices to professionals, similar to WeVideo, not a huge learning curve to use. You can very easily add special effects, edit videos, very simple, very intuitive. Snagit, I've actually used quite a lot myself. It's a screen capture tool. What we've seen a lot of use in the classroom for is if a teacher wants to demonstrate a web page, it's not always feasible for them to live stream that web page due to delays, technical difficulties. With Snagit, they can capture, think of it like a portion of a screenshot, just the areas they want to capture. They can highlight things on it, draw on it, however they want, paste that into a presentation or a Word document, and really demonstrate different things very easily that way.
So Snagit would be characterized as the beginner intermediate product, and Camtasia is the more full-featured one.
Mm-hmm. Camtasia you would use more for video, for more I wouldn't say highly advanced, but just for
Production level.
production level, yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Snagit's is used more as a very beginner, just a tertiary tool, kind of. Very useful, but...
I can figure a lot of people would begin with Snagit and go. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If I could just say something, I actually had never used Camtasia, and I actually learned about Camtasia from a fourth grade student who had done a project, and her dad had Camtasia, and she went ahead and edited it on Camtasia. And so I got started using that from her, from a fourth grade student who was actually using it at home. So it's got a pretty easy learning curve.
Yeah. Well, I think that, again, if you're thinking flipped classroom, which is still got plenty of mileage in discussion with educators, it's a good place to go. Speaking of that, Christine, any comments on flipped classroom? Because have you seen much of it happening on your campus, or others? I mean, is it still going pretty strong?
Oh, definitely. We have a couple teachers who, do videos all the time. I like to use video, like sometimes my students don't understand a concept, whether it's just uploading a video to YouTube or to Google Drive, and I feel like sometimes I go through the same thing over and over again because they forget. And it's great to be able to create those videos and put them where they can find them, and then they can just refer back to them over and over again. I think that happens a lot with math. I think it happens with science. A lot of the teachers are doing that, so definitely it's definitely going strong still. And you can pretty much find YouTube videos on anything. If I don't have time to create a video, I can just log into YouTube, do a search, and within 2 minutes I can find what I'm looking for. So I use that all the time.
Yeah, there's lots of platforms out there, and certainly, as Rich was talking about, live feeding is getting to be a big deal. So for our VARs out there listening, there's plenty of opportunities. So video gets to be a centerpiece of a lot of different types of solutions that you can sell and products that you can sell that all kind of marry together quite nicely. So, that was a good insight. Thanks, Christine.
Uh-huh.
Just to kind of repeat from the beginning, and again, can't kind of get on this enough, engaging students visually is a big deal. That's where these kids live. The fact that you can have instructors leverage their instructional time is always a big deal, because it never seems to be enough of them with all the students that they have to instruct daily. And then the agnostic nature of video is certainly an easier sell, so you're not having to fit it in only to one segment of use on a certain platform or device. How can they get it? That's a good question.
Definitely. The best way to get more information on these, this was a 30, 35-minute webinar. The purpose isn't to give every single imaginable detail on every product we have relating to video. If you want to get more in-depth info on any of these product lines, or even all of them, first you would want to contact your account rep. They'll be very knowledgeable about this. They'll be able to steer you in the right direction. If you don't know who your account rep is, you can actually call our customer service department. Their number is on the screen, 1-800-279-2795, and they'll be able to steer you toward the account rep for you.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't recognize two of our esteemed colleagues. Laura Parker and John Stefanski are the real muscle behind a lot of what goes on here. Laura runs our business unit, which is to say that all the products that we sell through our Larvar team and all the marketing that goes underneath that is her big responsibility. And John Stefanski leads our entire account management team, of which Rich is part of. And they are really the 1-2 punch that makes things go. You might have run across their names. We did not want to be remiss to leave them out, even though they are not on this Headlight series. They were on the first one. Mm-hmm. So anyway, just wanted to make mention of both of them. And then last but not least, as we approach 35 minutes dead on the dime, we will take any Q&A if anybody wants to put anything in the chat box. If not, as Rich mentioned just a moment ago, we can have you connected with your account rep, and you can further inquire about the products and how to get them, and we'll be sure to help you there. Anything on that? So we had a question on pricing for WeVideo, and again, contact your account rep. We have a special product that they developed for us called WeVideo for the classroom, and it's their unlimited version, which means it's got as much storage as you need and as bells and whistles that you need. So it's a full-featured product that's being offered exclusively through Douglas Stewart. So if you've been on their website and you've looked at some of their products, we have a very fancy, full-blown version that they've given us to compare, as complimentary to these products. So it's always nice to know that you got plenty of storage, and when it comes to video, you can certainly begin to crowd things.
Definitely. We actually just got a question in for Christine. What tools would make a teacher comfortable to expand into video? A blueprint guide, online instructional webinar, a webinar with tool sets?
Well, actually, Dave, the inventor of the iographer, wrote a book called Life Camera Action, and it really very simply outlines how to use all of those tools from A to B. And it's a really easy read, and in fact, I used it this year as my textbook because it really explains how to use your iPad or any mobile device as a creation tool. I really like it, and he tells you what to use as far as the iographer, which iographer to use, which microphone to use, why you use it, and I think that is a really good starting point for anybody who wants to, get into doing that. He also has a really good YouTube channel, which he has videos on everything. So if something doesn't make sense, you can go onto his YouTube channel, and he's got some kind of tutorial for it. That's what I would recommend. I also like I said, I also like some of the like iMovie, Adobe Spark, which is a simple video creator. Those are also really, really good too, just to get them to create a simple video, and once they do that, then they'll get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I've used Adobe Spark a time or two, and it is on the iPad really just easy drop and play, and it does amazing stuff. So I agree. In fact, the book that Christine just mentioned, I've got 4 copies of that book. That if you again respond to the top keywords, we'll make sure you get one. So I've got 4 of those that we'll throw into the mix. So we'll have more than just one winner of an iographer case. So it's a terrific book. Thanks for mentioning that, Christine.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's like I say, all of his tools just really make everything super easy. And like I said, it's a lot of it is just getting past the fear, And there's so much out there to look at, And all of the companies like WeVideo, they all have tutorials, that go along with when you go in there. So they tell you how to do it all. They walk you through it step by step.
Yeah, it's quite easy because you can talk about microphones and lenses and the rule of thirds and other types of things that are akin to shooting video, and you can really peel that onion. But to Christine's point, there's plenty of video online, and Dave's done quite a few of them, and I know that WeVideo has loads of them. So don't feel the weightiness that you have to carry all of that. If you really simply point people to some of those resources, it can really bring it home for you. Well, we're almost at 40 minutes. Do we have any other last questions that you see?
None that I see that we haven't responded to.
Yeah. If you happen to have missed any of the keywords, I only mentioned one, but if you happen to, they're in red. We are recording this so we can post it. I can tell you the words. If you want to know, if you're driving, don't stop and write this or do it while you're driving. But Megatrend was the first. Visually was the second. CTE, remember that was Career Tech Education?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was the third. And the last, which is vital to getting any of this stuff, account rep. So Megatrend first, visually second, CTE third, and last, and this is you, Rich, account rep. So those are the ones. Again, we'll give away 4 of Dave's books on Action Life camera or something like that.
Yep.
Life camera app.
That's it.
Yep.
Thanks, Christine. And along with the case. That concludes it for today. Again, our big thanks to Christine for joining us and Rich for riding shotgun with us. And we'll look to do this again soon.
Thank you.
Have a
for
great day,
having me.
everybody. You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.